What is up, you guys? I'm charmx, and today I'm going to be reacting to film theory WALL-E's Unseen Cannibalism by the film theorist. Now, the last episode of the film theorist I reacted to, he mentioned that, he did an episode of WALL-E being a cannibal, and I just have to react to this because, what do you mean they're cannibals? Okay, I don't... This is why I want to see it. I don't understand, and it's so intriguing. Anyway, with that being said, the original link's in the description. Make sure you go subscribe to the film theorist. Without any further ado, let's begin.
Oh man, cupcake in a cup is delicious. WALL-E totally had the right idea with this one. How did they make it taste this good? Let's see, sugar, potassium benzoate. Ugh, gross! I'm not eating potassium benzoate. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show where ruining your favorite childhood classics is my prime directive. And in my
I don't know if I'd say WALL-E is, a childhood classic for me. I don't know. How old would I have been? It came out in 2008? Maybe it is a childhood classic. I don't freaking know. I thought Disney for childhood classics, not freaking WALL-E.
crosshairs today is none other than WALL-E. Now, I could be in the worst of moods, like say a hypothetical situation when you have to wait weeks for the darn cable company to fix your stupid internet, when, the internet is kinda your job, and so you're paying people to just sit around and stare at their computers without actually being able to do anything. And do you think that the cable company is gonna come back and repay you for all the lost time and effort? No! Meanwhile, the people who watch your videos are like, hey, where's your videos? What are you doing? MatPat's slacking off! And you're like, no, it's not my fault, blame the internet company, but no one cares. No one cares. You know those sorts of moods? Yeah, I could be in one of those purely hypothetical moods just like that, not based on real circumstances, but you know what? The magic of Pixar makes it...
Someone's taking out his anger.
It all just fade away. And WALL-E is my all-time favorite. You can keep your Incredibles and Nemos. None of them can compete with robots learning to love. And then they watch Hello Dolly, and then they hold hands, and oh... just getting choked up seeing these clips from the movie. Cut to the next scene, Ronnie. Cut to the next scene. And now they're dancing through space. Oh, I kid you not. I weep openly at 3 separate points in this movie.
Really? I don't remember this movie being emotional. It's been so long since I've seen it. It's been 10 years since it came out. It's been a decade. That's a long time.
Well, at least I did. Now that I'm in the theory game, I don't so much watch movies anymore as I do study them. And this time I rewatched WALL-E, I wasn't crying because of robot love. I was crying because of the dark secret hidden in the bowels of the Starliner Axiom. To give you a refresher, the Axiom was supposed to be a safe haven for humanity, taking a few laps around the solar system while WALL-E's cleaned up the planet Earth and made it inhabitable once again. But when the events of WALL-E take place, they've actually been gone for centuries, longer than they first intended. They mention it in the movie like it's no big deal.
And welcome to day 255,642 aboard the Axiom. Oh, hey, I see the ship's log is showing that today is our 700th anniversary of our 5-year cruise. Well...
but that's gonna cause some problems, and one in particular. What are they eating? Cupcake in a cup? What?
I mean, you could have your own, what's it called? Like, greenhouse, right? I mean, you don't have to have the sun for the light. You can use friggin' light bulbs, and they do basically the exact same thing. So you could have a massive green room in the ship somewhere, and that's where you would grow all your vegetables for the year, something like that. I mean, it's possible.
What even is that? Well, be careful what you ask, because if you connect the dots throughout the movie, you can clearly see what the people on the Axiom are truly eating. And spoiler alert, it ain't Matt Damon's poop-tatoes. They're eating each other. That's right, your favorite movie about an adorable little trash robot trying to save the world has covert implications.
You better have a lot of proof to back this up.
That humanity is so screwed over that people are eating each other. Look, I'm not happy about it either. I wish this could be a theory about how WALL-E discovered the true meaning of Christmas, but there's just no evidence. Cannibalism, though? There's a lot of fishy things in this movie that point strongly in that direction. If it's been a minute since you've last seen WALL-E, 2 things. first, go watch it one final time before you forever start associating it with the consumption of human flesh. And second, there are a few key plot points that you'll want to keep in mind. WALL-E is set a good way into the future, in the year 2805, but the real action begins in 2105, when the Earth became too polluted to sustain human life. The proposed solution is for a superstore named By and Large to build giant spaceships to evacuate humans for 5 years while little robots clean up the mess and make Earth great again. Fast forward to the events of the movie, and as I mentioned before, what was supposed to last for 5 years has now lasted 700, and that...
Yeah, that's a long time. That's a long time. The plan was 5 years and it ends up going to 700 years. That's like a video game company pushing their date forward over and over and over. Or at least that's what it feels like. 700-year wait.
That leads us to what is a pretty obvious claim at this point. The Axiom has got to be out of food. Trying to stretch 5 years worth of rations into 700?
Like what I said, you could have a greenhouse. Like you could have a floor of the bottom of the spaceship dedicated solely to growing food. And you don't, as I said, you don't need the sun, you can use freaking lights. And once you grow the food, you can live that way.
Just ain't gonna work. When I go a week without buying groceries, I'm down to open-faced peanut butter sandwiches and trying to determine if I can drink barbecue sauce for my daily recommended calories.
You probably could.
Maybe they put extra food on board. I hear your busy little fingers typing in the comments already, and yeah, I would say that's practically a guarantee, as packing extra is standard operating practice for today's space travelers. For example, NASA, for an average 7-day flight, will have 2 extra days of food on board with them. But when it comes to the Axiom, we're talking about 140 times the amount of food they would need for the planned 5-year excursion. 140 times! Even if By and Large got wildly ambitious and stock the Axiom with, say, 10 years of food, an additional 2 times the planned trip length, people would still start going hungry hundreds of years before the events we see in the movie. Plus, it's not like people are rationing out their meals. Unlike Matt Damon on the surface of Mars, everyone is unaware of how much food they have left. So the idea of rationing in order to conserve for the long haul isn't a thing they're worried about, and yet the food keeps coming. But from where? It's also important to note that food is going to be different than other limited resources like fuel or water, because there are easy ways for the Axiom to harvest those things for the several centuries where they're in space. In the special feature Captaining the Axiom, we learn 2 important details about the ship. For one, the ship is made out of a nuclear-embedded alloy.
The Axiom is a second-generation General Dynamics Type 3 hull configuration made of a patented nuclear-embedded positronium alloy,
Which would seem to indicate that it's running on nuclear power. While food supplies will quickly dwindle after a few years,
As I said over and over and over, greenhouse. It shouldn't be that hard. Definitely when they have, artificial gravity here. So you just need dirt and seeds, a little bit of water, and some lights to act as a sun.
nuclear reactors get a whole lot more bang for the buck. For example, when fully reacted, 1 kilogram of uranium-235, popular reaction agent, produces as much energy as 1,500 tons of coal. So a small amount of that stuff will cover you for quite a long time. And it's not like uranium is gonna turn to mush like a week-old avocado. The time it takes for half a sample of uranium-235 to decay is over 700 million years. So don't need to worry about the expiration date on that one. For water, the Captaining the Axiom video also informs us that the ship is headed to the Kuiper Belt.
And here's your destination, Captain. The Kuiper Belt, that enigmatic frontier of our solar system, where fragments of our primordial protoplanetary disk still wait to be explored.
This is a part of space that's still, believe it or not, in our own solar system, but is beyond the planets. And all along, we all thought that the solar system ended after your very educated mother just sent you 9 pizzas. Take that, 6th grade science class.
What? What? Where the frick do pizzas come into play here? Did I miss something?
Theory be dropping knowledge all over this his house. The Kuiper Belt is filled with frozen, asteroid-sized chunks of various substances like methane, ammonia, and you guessed it, water. So it's not going to be hard to imagine that the Axiom could harvest some ice around it. But guess what you won't be finding on rocks floating through the empty void of space? Cows, wheat, other random foodstuffs. So fuel and water could technically be taken care of, but you just can't make food appear out of nowhere. Or can you?
See, I was gonna say, like, it's a good point about cows and that, because I highly doubt they would have had those on the ship. I mean, I guess they could technically have them and then just keep breeding them like they do on a farm or whatever. But maybe all the stuff with meat is actually like veggie stuff, because, they can grow the veggies turn that into, you know, a veggie burger or whatever, but don't tell anyone. And no one's the wiser.
This is the future after all, so maybe they've developed a way to create food out of thin air. Or at least that's what I initially thought until I looked a bit closer. I mean, food needs to come from somewhere, and note that we don't see any animals on the ship other than humans, unlike
See, that's just on the main area. You know, if there's a lower deck, you could be growing stuff down there.
water. Food is more complicated than simply a bunch of hydrogen and oxygen atoms put together, so you'd need some ingredients for the food from somewhere. And even if they had developed some meal replacement superfood like Soylent, which delivers all your essential calories, it still requires plants. Soy. Not even the ship's captain recognizes what a plant is or how it grows.
Where's the thingy? Plant. Right.
So what exactly
Now that is suspicious. Because if they were, as I said, had like a greenhouse or whatever under deck, you would think the captain of the ship would be aware of what a plant is. Now, if he doesn't know what a plant is, then you got yourself a theory. Because that kind of blows my theory out of the water that they're using a greenhouse.
would the hypothetical food be made out of? Also, if the Axiom were somehow able to synthesize food out of thin air, why would it be such a big deal that Earth can grow plants again? Wouldn't they be able to stay on the Axiom or go and colonize a new planet with that kind of technology? Nope, they've definitely run out of food, and yet we see that the population has managed to survive for generations aboard the Axiom. Does that automatically prove that the passengers are eating other passengers? Well, not by itself, but it does color the way that we look at other issues. Issues like, where did the dead people go? The Axiom...
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I mean, they could cremate the dead people, but at the same time, if the captain of the freaking ship doesn't know what a plant is, that obviously means he's never seen one, and you would think the captain would be aware of everything that's going on the ship. So that means that they're obviously not growing plants. So that's, like, worrying. It looks like, you know, the film theory is correct on this movie.
has been flying around for 700 years and started with a population of 600,000. Again, according to those DVD special features.
The Axiom is a virtual city in space designed to accommodate the needs and desires of each of her 600,000 passengers.
During that time, we can be certain that those 600,000 starter people have died several times over. When Captain McCree looks at the pictures of the captains before him, we see that there were 5 previous captains of the Axiom who've lived and died, and that they were each captain for between 120 and 150 years. That means we're looking at lifespans that may be as long as 200 years, but that still leaves us with over 2 million dead bodies that the Axiom's gonna have to deal with. And we know they're not thrown away since we see the airlock system and garbage disposal areas of the ship. When Wally and Eve get pushed into the inner bowels of the Axiom with the rest of the waste, there's no organic material to be found.
That's because you can cremate them. Like, did you not think of this before? If you were to cremate them, you would save a lot of space. So maybe that's what they're doing. And see right here, you don't know what the stuff is. It could be ash. But as far as what they're eating, it seems like it could possibly be bodies.
Only mechanical parts. And when things do get jettisoned out into space, again, there's nothing but trash and metal to be seen. So if you're not throwing the dead bodies away or launching them into space, there's only 2 possibilities. 1, burning them into ash, which is likely, or 2,
Oh, there, so you thought of it.
recycling them. And if you've got a lot of one kind of material that needs to be recycled, i.e. human bodies, and another resource that you're in desperate need of, i.e. food, then it makes at least mathematical sense to see if the surplus of one can fix the deficit of the other. But of course, no human would ever agree to a plan that monstrous, am I right? Well, I am right, but aboard the Axiom, they wouldn't have to. Remember, the Axiom's captain is incompetent. Until his spiritual awakening late in the film, Captain McCree demonstrates that he holds a meaningless title responsible for nothing more than reading announcements and clapping twice to get his coffee. McCree doesn't even know how the controls of the ship work.
What kind of captain doesn't know how the freaking controls of the ship
Why
work?
don't you wake me for morning announcements? Honestly, it's the one thing I get to do on this ship.
So it's clear that any major developments or decisions on the ship aren't going through him. Enter Otto the autopilot, who has no problem instituting the system of man eat man. Remember that all of Otto's actions revolve around Directive A113, a program which says that the Axiom must never return to Earth.
Autopilot, take control of everything and do not return to Earth. Repeat, do not return to Earth. Let's get the heck out of here.
Both of the problems I just mentioned, the Axiom becoming crowded with corpses and running out of food, would very much threaten Directive A113 by requiring a return to Earth to offload or get more supplies, thereby forcing Otto in an attempt to fulfill his programming to come up with a solution to fix both problems at any cost.
Sir, I insist you give me the plan.
Otto, get out of my way.
We cannot go home.
What are you talking about? Why not?
That is classified. Captain, give me the plan.
What do you mean classified? You don't keep secrets from the captain.
It's not evil, it's just an artificial intelligence following his programming to the letter. And unlike McCree, Otto controls pretty much everything happening on the ship because everything on the Axiom is taken care of by the robot fleet. From being lifeguards at the pool, to performing maintenance, to delivering drinks. The passengers have relinquished all the control to the
Yeah, this is a real sad movie. I forgot how sad it was. I mean, just seeing all these people. Look at this person can't even get up like a freaking turtle. Like a freaking turtle. It's a real sad movie. Well, it has been a decade since I've seen it, so I guess you can't blame me.
the robots.
B is for by and large, your very best friend.
And many of these robots are obsessed with cleaning and contaminants. Thus, it would only be in their programming to want to dispose of something as unsanitary as a human cadaver. Huh. Which brings us to the grimmest part of all. Sure, I've demonstrated how the passengers and the Axiom could have come about eating each other, both in terms of necessity and in the logistics of how such a system could come about, but up to this point it's been mostly speculation. It's time to prove this grim truth using science. Just look at the passengers aboard the ship. I'd say that they're a bit overweight. I'm triggered! Judging them, that's a big point in the movie. The by and large CEO makes the claim that
Due to the effects of microgravity, you and your passengers may have suffered some slight bone loss.
and the diagram on the screen strongly implies that the bone loss is the cause of everyone's bootylicious body. But the science of that just doesn't make any sense. Sure, NASA has done a lot of research and determined that the weightlessness of space makes bones less dense very quickly and causes muscles to atrophy, but neither of these cause people to be overweight. And even if it did, what evidence do we really have that these people are subject to microgravity in the first place? Based on the way Wally falls down the trash chute and the way the babies slide down the Lido deck at the end of the movie, the Axiom is mimicking Earth's gravity, just like it mimics Earth's temperature. If there were microgravity on board, you wouldn't need a hover chair because literally any chair not bolted to the ground could hover. So all this talk about microgravity causing obesity is pure lies. And while the movie leads us to believe that their physical inactivity is
Wait, so if they have, their own gravity here, wouldn't that mean that their bones would be fine? Because, the reason why in space your bones, get like weaker and decay faster is because of the gravity. Am I wrong in assuming that?
is what causes them to gain weight. That also simply isn't true. Inactivity isn't good for you, sure, but weight loss is more tied to what you're consuming rather than what you're burning off.
That's so true. That's so true. Because I am not a very active person. And I've been losing weight over the last couple months just from eating a lot less. And I'm not eating healthier either. I still eat... I freaking have chips every night before I go to bed. Let's just say that, okay? I have chips every night before I go to bed. And, I do not eat healthy. I just eat a lot less, try to eat less calories. That's all I'm doing. And as far as working out, I've been working out less over the last couple months.
Don't get me wrong, the passengers wouldn't be in good shape, but if they never used their muscles, they'd simply be frail, not fat and overweight. This means that whatever they're eating on a regular basis is densely caloric. That's what's maintaining the kind of weight that we see them toting around in the movie. And as it turns out, human meat could yield those sorts of results. According to a disturbingly specific article in Popular Science, an average human body, when cooked, is good for a little over 80,000 calories.
How would you... What? How... Man, these scientists are up to some weird stuff, aren't they?
And these were bodies analyzed in the 1940s and 50s, long before the American obesity epidemic forced our mayors to decide how big our cups of Mountain Dew could be. So we can imagine that people of today would be even more caloric, perhaps topping 100,000 calories apiece. And calories coming from human flesh aren't exactly healthy calories either. The Popular Science article notes that a significant percentage of those calories in a human body are coming from adipose tissue, pure fat. So combine, say, a fatty, human flesh-filled diet with onboard inactivity, and you've got yourself a recipe that results in some very overweight passengers, like the ones that we see populating the Axiom. Now, of course,
I think the film theorist is right on this one. I think he is correct in assuming that they are eating other people. Just because, I mean, all the evidence shows that it seems that way. Also the fact that, you know, I was thinking that they could have a greenhouse on like a lower floor of the ship, which would also be possible, definitely if they have their own gravity. But since the captain hasn't seen a plant, that obviously means that they don't have plants on the ship, which means they don't have like a growing area for the plants, which they should have had if that would have solved everything. But apparently they didn't think that far ahead.
Of course, there's one final problem to this theory: tricking people into eating other people. Getting around that humany flavor you're gonna be contending with. It's kind of like getting a kid to eat Brussels sprouts. Eat it, it's gonna be good for you. Or, I guess in the Axiom's case, eat it, because if you don't eat your fellow passengers, there's literally nothing else we can serve you. So, you're gonna die and then get fed to everyone else. So how do you season up a human body to make it palatable to a bunch of unaware passengers? Well, the solution is a lot more straightforward than you might initially think. Science has actually proven that one of the best ways to mask the flavor of something is to liquefy it and then serve it through a straw. But it's not like everything that the people on the Axiom consume comes through a straw. I mean... Oh, that's it. I got nothing. I just ruined my favorite Pixar movie. Robot romance will never be the same. And with that, Charlton Heston, if you would be so kind to lead us out.
These people! We gotta stop them somehow!
But hey, that's just a theory.
A theory that I agree with. I think it's like 99% correct. I mean, there's so much evidence that says that, you know, they are eating other passengers and whatnot. Yeah, that really did ruin that movie for me. Wow. Anyway, guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, possibly share with a friend if you're new, and subscribe to the family today. Also, make sure you go subscribe to the Film Theorist. Let me know if this ruined WALL-E for you, because it did for me. But yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys the next time.